Okay, looks like we're recording.
Okay, so hi guys, welcome to our presentation. Um, I'm Johannes de Boer. I work for the Saxion University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands, and with me is my colleague Christian, and we will both tell you about a little bit about our programs. So we are from two different departments. Christian is from the Life Science Engineering and Design department, and I'm from the Creative Technology department, and we will tell from both our programs a little bit. But first of all, Saxion, where are we? Well, let me explain that to you. We're in the Netherlands, and that's a small country on the other side of the sea. And actually, if you would drive from north to south, it will take you 4 hours. That's it. That's how big we are. Um, and just to give you an idea of where we are in these three different locations. So that's Enschede, Deventer, and Apeldoorn. They're all medium-sized cities in the Netherlands. Um, and from Amsterdam Airport, it's around 2 to 3 hours to reach us. Okay. Well, the nice thing about the Netherlands is that we have very good public transportation. You really can get everywhere by train. It's not that expensive, and most of the students here don't even own a car because the train and also sometimes buses, they bring them really everywhere. Almost everyone in the Netherlands speaks English, so even if you want to buy bread or beer or anything else at the supermarket, they probably can help you out, especially when you're living in one of the student cities. Then, okay, let's get to the next slide. Sorry, it's a little bit slow, so we'll see how fast that goes. Yeah, so I think I already taught you this, but maybe some nice details are our university has around 27,000 students divided over the 3 locations in the 3 cities, almost 3,000 employees, and around 12 to 15% of our students are international students. And they're really coming from everywhere. So we have students from Southeast Asia, from Australia, from Northern America, Southern America, everywhere across Europe. So really, I think around 150 different nationalities. And depending on the program that you would join, you either have maybe 1 or 2 international students, or almost 50% of your fellow students will be international. Okay, next. Yes. So our university has 13 different schools, and every school is divided in the 13 schools are divided across different sectors. So we have one school that's more into media, one that's more into behavior, we have one that's more into science or in management, and in total these schools offer 59 different bachelor studies and 17 master studies. And then besides that, we also have plenty of opportunity for part-time studies and courses. But if you would come here as an exchange student for your study abroad, then you will follow a program within one of the 59 bachelor studies. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so the focus of Saxion is very applied, and especially very applied considering technology and technical innovations. So we have a slogan at the university, and that's "Get ready for a smart world." And we think that as a future employee in a company, that's what you will need. You need to be able to use technology in a smart way. It doesn't matter if you want to become a teacher or a nurse or a game designer or a scientist, you need those experiences with technology because that's where most of the jobs will require of you in the near future. Okay, I click press and then it takes 20 seconds to go to the next slide. Okay, maybe, yeah, as I mentioned, we have 3,500 international students. I think I already mentioned that before. And we have very state-of-the-art facilities. So we have, for example, a studio with green screens and blue screens, but we also have a radio studio, we have labs for engineering, and all these labs have a focus on living technology. Okay, let me see where my next slide goes. One of the aspects of our university is that in all programs you will work in small groups and in small teams. And if you have a lab or a lecture, especially the labs, it's often 20 to 25 students in one lab group. Of course, if you have a big lecture, then it could be 100 or 200 students, but most classes are in labs. So that means that you have a lot of attention from your teacher because, well, he only has 20 to 25 students to pay attention to. And in these pictures, you also see some of our classrooms. So these are not just Shutterstock pictures, but they are really pictures from our university. And I think that gives you a good impression. Then, if you would come to the Netherlands, of course, you need accommodation, so you need a room. Well, all our rooms are one person. So if you use the student housing from our university, you will not be in a mixed dormitory, but you will be in a dormitory on your own. And of course, you share a kitchen and bathroom with some other students. And depending on the location where you will be, it's either 3 to 5 other students that you share the kitchen with. We focus on mixing nationalities in all our dormitories, so you won't end up with only Americans or only Eastern Europeans, but we try to mix it as much as we can, because we think that will enrich your international experience and your study abroad. And obviously, there is an internet connection in every room, so don't worry. You will be able to contact your parents. And then let me give the word to my colleague Christian, because he can tell you a lot more about the School of Life Science, Engineering and Design than I can.
Okay, thanks, Johannes. I'm Christian Slot, and I'm a computer science teacher for the School of Life Science, Engineering and Design, and we are really the engineering department. We also have a computer science within the creative technology, but they are more focused on programming. We are more focused on combining it with, for instance, electronics. But before I dive into the programs itself, let me first share a little bit about the program of how do we do our educational system in the Netherlands. It's usually 4 years, and then you have your bachelor's, and you can continue afterwards with your master's. And in the first and second year, it's usually small courses, both theory and practical. So you're sitting in a classroom and you're actually writing computer programs, or you're doing lab tests, or you're making a new design for a dress or something. So it's a very nice balance within all the courses, and all the theory and practice you learned combined are in projects. And those projects, what we try to do is we take real life examples from the industry to guide you in a project that you will be ready for the job market afterwards. And of course, during the first 2 years and also later, we have a lot of mentoring. We give a good guidance, and we also teach you the more social skills, like how to do an interview, or how to write your resume, or how to set up a project plan and stuff like that. So the first 2 years are really building a basis, building a foundation for you to get ready for the job market. And then in the third and fourth year, we will start practicing with being able with getting ready for the job market. We do an internship and a final thesis, and both internship and final thesis are within a company usually. So you really are on the job and doing a big project where you have to show that you can do a complex, individually self-paced project. In the internship, it's more practice, and we encourage students to make as much mistakes as possible to learn from that. And then finally, in the final thesis, you have to show that you're worth of a bachelor diploma. Besides your bachelor, which is your major part. We also have 1/2 year, a minor part, which can be anything outside your major field of study. And we have, of course, the Smart Solutions semester, where we do in multidisciplinary project, again, from the industry, but now it is within Saxion, within the school, and we guide you through that whole process. And within the process, within the Smart Solutions semester, the nice thing is that we mix all the students from all the different programs. So you will be sitting with somebody from chemistry or from the arts department or anything, and you will tackle a problem for which there is no real solution at the start. And in half a year, we'll be working on that, and you will present your findings in a portfolio at the end. So in this way, within 4 years, if you're doing it nominally, our students and also some students from abroad do 4 years of bachelor's. Of course, this program now is for an exchange, and within that 4 years, you can either choose for a mix of courses of the first 2 years, or one of the big blobs, like a minor or a Smart Solutions semester. Let's dive into the types of exchange programs you can do. For that, we will take a look at the different bachelors that life science and engineering offer. We have 2 fields. One field is the life science bachelors, the biology, medical, chemistry, but also forensics science, the CSI. Although I think in the movies it's a little bit more glamorous than actually doing the tests, which take 2 days in the lab, but only 5 minutes in the movies. This is one part, and like I said, we are very practically driven, so you will be working in the lab yourself. The other part is the engineering part, and there we have the applied computer science, where I myself am a teacher, but we also have electrical and electronic engineering, industrial design, so making nice stuff, engineering physics, what is behind it, mechanical engineering, and also mechatronics, where the electronics, computer science, and the mechanical fields are combined. Our applied computer science is really applied computer science, which is partly mixed for 50% with electrical and electronic engineering. So it's more for the embedded systems, whereas the computer science or the software engineering part, where Johannes de Boer will talk about a little bit more, is more on the programming and software engineering side. So please be aware of that distinction when you visit our websites for more information. Okay, besides life science engineering, we also have a top study for those who start in the first 2 or 3 years with one of the other bachelors, and that is the field of nanotechnology. And this is a very specialized field where we work with other research-oriented universities and also, again, the university. Interesting for you is that we have a half-year exchange semester also within the field of nanotechnology. But especially for you, I've highlighted some of the more interesting, hopefully more interesting, exchange programs that you can find on our website and that are offered by life science engineering and design. Like I said, you can take half a year of courses in the first and second year of both applied computer science or electrical and electronic engineering, or a mix of that. Or you can do likewise something like civil engineering exchange program. Those are more courses. Like I said, we also have the minor part, which is a specialized half year, internally consistent, and that's perfectly ideal for you to follow as an exchange because it's standing on its own. And for instance, we have robotics and visions minor, we have industrial automation minor, and also we have the smart embedded systems minor. I had to select one I'm teaching in the Smart Embedded Systems minor, so that's one of the minors I will be talking a little bit more about. If you have questions, please, we can do that at the end. So the Smart Embedded Systems minor is really a minor where we dive into the technology of an embedded system, and we try to make the embedded system smart. And we're not only focusing on off-the-shelf products, no, we're actually trying to build or design the hardware ourselves and write the accompanying software. So for that, we have one major course in this in the whole minor, embedded system design. But of course, most embedded systems are deployed within the field of IoT. So we need to know something about security, IoT. Some systems have camera. We need to know something about vision. Most embedded systems can be controlled with your telephone. So we have a small course on building a simple app to control your embedded systems, and of course, underlying systems that you need or technology that you need for an embedded system is digital signal processing, for instance, or operating systems. Thrown in with a whole mix, of course, the practical side, a big project. And to make it more visible, what can we think about when we are doing a smart embedded systems project? I will highlight two of the projects we did in the last years. One of the first is the smart time cube. It's a cube which you can rotate, and basically it will keep track depending on the orientation. And it has to be low power, and that's why we have electronic displays, paper, the paper kind. And it's a whole crowded slide, but to emphasize what we do here, we're not only doing the research, so the design starting from scratch, but we're also building the prototype itself. And this is done by within a half year by 4 students, 2 from electrical engineering and 2 students from applied computer science, and they managed to completely finish a working product with an app. Another example is where we join forces with the industry, because this was an internal project, but another project was for a company around here, Pentas, which they are into the plastics, and they store all the plastic raw material for the molding into silos. And they had to keep track of those silos. Where are the silos, and how full are the silos with the raw plastic material? And here you really can see the approach, what we do. They start off very freely with design sketches, so what is needed, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be a sketch on paper. But then following, you're doing tests with an ultrasonic sensor to measure the height. You see what it is capable of. You're making the diagrams, you're making the software, you're designing everything. And again, this was also a very successful project, because we finished with actual hardware that worked, and the company was very satisfied. Of course, the grade of the student does not depend on the success of the company, of course, because it still is education. I hope that this gives a little bit of insight what the School of Life Science, Engineering and Design stands for, and what kind of cool projects you are able to do if you're, for instance, choose the minor Smart Embedded Systems as your exchange half year. I think this concludes my part. And Johannes, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I just clicked on the next slide, so I think it should load in a second or so.
It was faster on my side.
Yeah, but I clicked for you. Okay, let me see what's happening.
Well, I also had some arrows on the top to click, so.
Okay. Strange. Now it's. Okay. Oh, okay. Now it stopped. Let me reload. There we go. Yes.
We can edit this out at a later stage, of course.
Hopefully. Yes, okay.
I just realized I was muted. I don't think we'll need to edit it. It's fine.
That's always nice. Okay. Not sure what's up for this slide, Christian, but somehow it's having a hard time loading.
I think it's the high resolution pictures.
Oh, could be. Could be. You still see the slide with Pentas?
Yes.
Ah, and now you see a slide with a VR
Yes.
device.
Yes.
Okay.
And, we don't. You turned off your camera, I think.
Okay. And then it's should be coming on now. Yeah, there we are.
Now you're gone again. You were visible
Yeah.
for seconds.
Yes. Okay. So.
Yes.
Sorry for that. Thank you for your patience. So now let's move from the School of Life Science, Engineering and Design to the School of Creative Technology. Behind me, you see the building that we work in and that you also have most of your classes in. It's not the highest building of the city, but it's one of the higher buildings in the city. So from our rooftop terrace all the way there, you can have a very nice view over the whole city. So and also the whole area around the city. And if the day is very clear, you can even look all the way into Germany. So that's how close you are to the border. That's nice. So the School of Creative Technology, that's the school that I work for, and we have a bunch of very interesting programs for you. I'll start with these. In total, we have around 10 to 12, but these are the most popular ones. So we have a study abroad opportunity for creative media and game technologies if you want to work in the interactive media or video game field. We have a minor that's called How to Create Killer Content, where you really learn how to set up a media campaign to, well, and to design content that will really reach your audience. We have a minor in IT security, so that's mainly software based, but it helps you to understand how IT security works. Then if you're more into programming and software engineering, we have a software engineering exchange program. We have one in big data technologies and also a very specific one in fashion and textile technologies. We have an expertise in the textile technologies part here in our city. And I think we're one of the few in Western Europe that have such a department. So we're not going to learn you how to be the new Dolce & Gabbana or Gucci. And we're really learning you how you can improve textiles or how you could make design sensors in a smart suit for firemen, for example, or how you can measure heart rate and transpiration for athletes within their clothing. So that's a very specific but very nice program. I work mainly for the Creative Media and Game Technologies program, and that's also what I want to show to you today. So let me head on to the next slide for that. Creative Media and Game Technologies is really, it's both. It's in creative media and it's gaming. And we also have students that specialize in one of these two. So an interesting, I think, start for students who want to do our program is ask yourself what your living room will look like in 5 years. Because if you look in your living room right now, you probably see some furniture, you see a big TV, probably some IKEA stuff in there, or maybe some stuff from Walmart or from Target, but that will probably not change in 5 years' time. We believe that the biggest changes in 5 years or maybe in 10 years will not be what's visible physically in your living room, but it is what you can do digitally or virtually in your living room. Just to give you an example, I think 2 years ago, an AR version for Flappy Bird came out. And with this version of Flappy Bird, you could really throw the birds through your mother's living room window without actually breaking the window. And we think that you will see more and more of these types of applications, but also just wait a little bit and you will see that, for example, Netflix will come out with a movie or a TV show that can really have a play and a setting in your living room or in a park, where the story is predetermined, but you determine the area or the setting, the stage where this will happen. That's the kind of world we want to prepare you for with our program, because we think we need people who both understand the psychology, the technology, the storytelling for these kinds of products. And not only because it's fun to smash a bird through a window, but also because this will become very important, for example, in hospitals, in daycare, in sports events, on television, but also when someone designs a new house for you. You really want to have the whole experience before you physically want to build it. So we see a lot of different areas where you can apply technologies like this. So, yeah, how do we do that? Within our program, we have 3 distinctive roles. Okay, my screen is black again. Okay, we have 3 distinctive roles. We have engineers, designers, and artists. And we think you need all these 3 in order to design a good video game, or to design an interactive movie, or to design an interactive book. And that's also one of the nice things in our program. You can choose your own courses within these 3 tracks, at least as an exchange student. Our normal students need to choose 1 track, but you can choose courses from all these 3 different tracks. So an engineer will mainly build the code or the database for a game or for an app. The designer will design the user interaction, maybe the storyline, and the artist is the one who makes all the graphic design, the audio, etc. Within the program, you will always have to work together with all these 3 types of students, because if you don't have an engineer, then you can make stuff that looks very nice, but it just doesn't work. And if you only have engineers and you're missing out on artists, either you have no sound for your movie, or you have graphics that look like, well, that don't look like anything at all, probably. The nice thing about this program is that around 50% of the students are international students. So in a classroom of 20, only 10 are Dutch, and the other 10 are from across the globe. We have a lot of students from Eastern Europe, but also from Vietnam, from Brazil. So literally, we have around, I think, 90 different nationalities in our program alone. That's quite a lot. At least for our university, it's quite a lot. So just to give you some ideas of the type of courses that we offer within the program. Yeah, there they are. As an artist, or for the artist courses, you have things like 3D modeling, 2D modeling, cinematic sound design, or spatial audio. Engineering is more game programming, physics, because physics also in a game environment is very important, but also algorithms and Unity scripting. And then as designer, you have game design, UI, UX, behaviorism. And behaviorism for us, that's a combination of psychology and philosophy, because we think you need both of these. If you start a semester at CMGT, you always start with a full-time 2 or 3 week project. You finish that project with your project team in 2 to 3 weeks, and then you start with the courses. Those courses, well, of course, they have exams or you have to hand in certain stuff, but that's how we do. So we do not do the projects together with the courses. We split them up in different weeks. And we think in that way that your experience of doing such a project is very similar to how you would do that in a company after you graduate. So let me see. One more slide, I think. If it's loading. Yeah. Okay. Some highlights from our program is last year we opened our XR lab, and XR is, well, everything with an R, so AR, VR, and whatever will coming up in the future. We have around 50 students working there permanently on graduation, internship, or group projects. And we have all the state-of-the-art VR and AR equipment there in that lab. So if you do a project for yourself or for a company or for a client in the field of VR and XR, this is the lab where you will probably end up working in. And then we also invite professionals from the industry. So last January, we had Julian Fuddy. He's coming over every year to our university, and he was the special effects supervisor for the last 3 Star Wars movies. So he's the one who decides which visual shots get in and which don't. So yeah, we are very proud that he pays us a visit every year. I don't think we'll have him this year, but because we do all the education online at the moment, but hopefully in 2021 or 22 he'll be back. And I think that's more or less what I wanted to tell you. So this is probably a good time to ask your questions if you have any questions for me or Christian.
Well, thank you for your presentation. We had a couple of students in and out, and Andrea and Chella, our study abroad advisors, also popped in. They're in right now. I was actually hoping you could, the programs look amazing, and I think, as you said in the beginning, you know, our universities really align in our goals and the type of programs and the way that we teach. Very, very similar. That's exciting. But I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about the student life outside of classes. Like, what would their experience be like? I know you talked a little bit about accommodation. Mm-hmm. What about, I don't know, clubs, organizations, nightlife, things like that?
Well, it depends a little bit on the city you'll end up in. So most of Christian, his programs are in Enschede, and it's the same for me. And that's a city, we are around 180,000. So for the Netherlands, that's quite big, but for, well, I think American cities, it's not really that big.
Well, for us, it's really big.
Okay.
But I mean, Menominee is quite small.
Okay, but yeah, it's not a very big city, but it's also not a very old city. I think it was a small village 100 years ago, and it really grew because of the textile industries. So we have a small village center. It's like 1 by 1 kilometer, and there you have all the shops. You have a lot of bars, cafes, restaurants. There's always good offering for students. So if you don't want to cook yourself, you could go out there for dinner, I think, for maybe somewhere between 8 and 12, 13 euros. And then you have a plate and something to drink. Especially on Thursdays and Saturdays, there's a big student nightlife here, really crowded. Enschede doesn't have a very strict closing policy at night. So it could be 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or even a little bit later if you want to. And then our university, together with the University of Twente, that's a different university in our city, we have a lot of sports facilities and student sports clubs. So I myself did diving, for example, and boxing when I was a student. But we also have a running, triathlon, trail
Gymnastics,
running.
gymnastics, and also arts, drama.
Yeah.
During my studies, I did I was a lighting director for improvisational theater. So yeah, it's really it's not that big, but it has a nice atmosphere. It's really most pubs are centered around one market square, and especially in the summer, it's you sit outside and it's cozy.
Yeah, and within the city, I think if you would live at one of the student houses, almost everything is in walking distance. And if it's not, then, well, learn to ride a bike because then you can really get everywhere. I myself, I live outside the city. That's 7 kilometers from the city, so that's 3 miles, no, 4 miles, and that's when you are at the border of Germany. So that's the city itself is maybe 3 by 4 miles big. It's not that large. And if you would end up in Deventer, one of our other cities with a big campus, it's a little bit smaller. It has around 90,000 people, but it is a very old city center. It's very nice. A lot of tourists from all over the world go there. It's very nice small center. Besides that, I'm not really sure about the nightlife. I never lived there.
It's comparable.
Yeah.
There. I have friends there, and I go by train, and then we have a lot of beers, and then the train runs back again.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly doable.
Yeah, so the train between these two cities, even if you would live in one and study in the other, it's very okay. It's 45 minutes by train, and both campuses are within 5-minute walking distance from the train station. So that's quite good. I've then if you would like to go a little bit further from Enschede to, for example, Amsterdam, it's like 2 hours, 2 hours 50 minutes by train. To Brussels, it's 4 hours. To Paris, it's 6 hours. To Berlin in Germany, it's like 4.5, 5 hours. So, and then besides trains, there are all these cheap ass buses everywhere. They're called Flixbus, and they go all over Europe. And you can get to Prague or to Madrid for maybe 20-30 euros. So that's yeah. If you really want to go to Europe, that's a good starting point.
Yeah, sounds like it. What's the cost of living like in general there? Would you say it's
If
high
you
end?
if you choose to have a room provided by the university, it's a fixed price. It's a 400 euros. Maybe next year it's 10 or 20 euros more. So it tends to be a little bit more expensive than if you have a private landlord. But we offer more flexible contracts. So for example, 4 or 5 months, while most landlords, they ask for a 1-year contract and they want you to pay up for 2 months, 1 month in advance. And those are things we don't do. And then we guarantee that your room is available when you arrive from the airport. So that's helpful. So especially if you're only here for 5 months, I think if you calculate 1,600 to 2,000 euros for the whole time there for your room, that's okay, and that includes water, electricity, internet, etc. And then if you living expenses for food really depends on how you do that. I think most students here, they cook for themselves, or they cook in small groups, and then you can really make a nice meal if you go to the supermarkets and you have like 5-6 euros. You can have a very expensive meal including meat or fish. If you want to go to a more cheaper supermarket, it could be 2-3 euros. Supermarkets here tend to be a little bit more or less expensive than in the States, especially if you go to a discount supermarket. Especially fruit and vegetables, they're not that expensive here. So that's at least from what I know compared to Michigan and New York State.
Yeah, great. I noticed we did have someone join. Adriana joined a little bit later. So Adriana, you missed the main presentation, but it will be recorded, or it has been recorded, so you can watch that later. If you have any questions, if you want to turn on your microphone or write in the chat, please feel free to do that. And I'm going to think if I have any other questions. Oh, what would you say is the best time, like fall versus spring? Which season would be the best, or summer? What would you recommend?
Well, our winters, I think they are not as cold as they are up north where you are. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure because I've never been to your state. I've only been to Michigan, and I saw that there was still snow in April.
Yeah, we're pretty much
okay
to Michigan, depending on yeah.
We have no snow in April.
We have a very moderate climate.
Okay.
Yes. So there's no need for air conditioning in summer, and no need for shoveling in winter. So it's and whether you come in the fall or in the spring, in the fall you start with nice weather, and it starts to get a little bit wetter, and in the spring you start a little bit wet and cold, and gradually you warm up towards summer.
So if you would come for autumn semester, then you would still have nice weather when you arrive at the end of August or beginning of September, and it can be really warm, even hot. So today we had 23 degrees Celsius. That's a little bit more warm than we are used to at the end of September. But then autumn is quite long, so winter starts only like sometimes beginning of December, sometimes beginning of January, depending on the airflow, and then runs until somewhere beginning of March. So if you would go for spring semester, you would arrive here in February. It's probably still quite cold, but then at the end of June, beginning of July, it's quite hot. It can it can be almost 30 degrees. But I think somewhere between 18 and 22 is more common in late spring and early autumn. So it's very nice.
yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah. So it's not like it's raining every day like you see in some movies about the Netherlands. Of course, we have a lot of rain, but it's the number of days I have to cycle to work in the rain is like maybe once or twice a month. So it's not that bad. And because there is rain and water, we have a lot of green trees and flowers, and that's the plus side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we tend to have a decent amount of rain here as well. When it's not snow, it's yeah. Well, great. That sounds wonderful. I'm going to stop the recording now, but we can still chat. And Adriana, if you still want to type a question or ask, please feel free to do that.